Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Persona 5 playthrough, and there are some perks, it turns out, to doing these commentaries as we go, because they just today announced 3 spin-offs.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
And with the announcement for the anime, it's been a very busy week for Persona.
Yeah. Well, I should say 2 Persona 5 spin-offs, 1 accompanying Persona 3 spin-off for some reason, and the Persona 5 anime. Yeah.
Which, to backtrack on the song, we all saw it coming.
Yeah. Well, we all knew that the anime was going to happen eventually. Persona Q2 is one that I expected, but not this soon. Like, wow. I am apprehensive because the writing and characterization in Persona Q was quite frankly garbage.
It better come out in Q2 of next year.
Yeah, well, spring 2018 is when the dancing games are coming out. I don't know why they had to announce dancing games so far in advance, but there you go. I'm wondering how the Persona 3 protagonist is going to be hanging around in Dancing Moon Knight, because, well, that kinda shouldn't happen unless it takes place during the game, I suppose.
Which they'll more than likely do.
I mean, if it's just like a no-story, non-canon dancing party game, then fine. I'm okay with that. In fact, that would probably be better. Dancing All Night had a story mode, and it's totally canon, by the way.
And Atlas always goes all out when it comes to spin-off Persona stories, because, like, if you're playing a fighting game, if you're playing a dancing rhythm game, they will still have cutscenes that go on for, like, 20 to 30 minutes before your next fight/song.
I kind of feel bad. Kawakami was just like waxing depressed about how she didn't notice that Kamoshida was such a horrible person, and we were just like talking over her about dancing games.
Well, just as far as the spin-offs go, the other thing I'm surprised of is the that four-way crossover fighting game by Arc Systems is involving Yu Narukami and not protagonist here.
Yeah, well, that's because they already have sprites for the Persona 4 Arena characters. They're reusing sprites for basically everything that they've done before. It saves them a hell of a lot of work. Although, I won't be surprised if they slip one Persona 5 character in as a guest character, just for the hell of it, and to give us something new. We'll see.
Or if they don't eventually make a Persona 5 Arena.
Well, they probably will, but, you know, making a whole fighting game takes a hell of a lot of time, and they probably aren't anywhere close to being able to announce that kind of thing yet. And, you know, these kind of crossover games are really good for stopgaps between new entries. Like, you know, Tekken uses the tag series to fill time between main entries. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm had Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations while they were trying to let the manga and anime pull ahead somewhat so that they had more story to tell in their story modes. And, you know, it works out when it happens and when it's done well. I'm not opposed to that kind of approach. You know, companies need to keep selling games, and sometimes they can't afford to just do nothing and wait for their opportunity to release.
So
the next
that's
one.
why Kingdom Hearts does nothing but compilations until 3.
Well, when you get to that level, you're just being ridiculous. And yeah, the Phantom Thieves website is gonna be a major part of the story now. For better or worse. I mean, whenever a game is trying to, you know, hashtag modernize things, these days it's always the mobile phone that pops up first. It's kind of funny to think that not all too long ago it was actually a surprisingly trendy thing to have an iPod in your game. Remember Metal Gear Solid 4?
Yep.
Snake had this iPod, and you could listen to soundtracks on it while you played, or you could listen to developer interviews. I don't think I ever did it while I was actively playing, but I did once or twice sit down in-game and just listen to the stuff through the iPod. At that point, though, it kind of felt like a bit of a gimmick. Like, this is all kind of stuff that I want to do when I'm not playing the game, like in an extra menu or something. And, the music I can get, but the developer commentaries, I don't think I could concentrate on listening to those while playing.
You probably could during the later parts of Metal Gear Solid 4 because there's like no game to be had.
Oh yeah, it would make for an excellent way to fill the time while you're stalking that one guy in the Europe area. Ugh.
For like half an hour.
Metal Gear Solid 4 has its ups and it has its downs. Personally, I find the downs more annoying than the ups make up for, but I can see why a lot of people are crazy for it. Anyway, this is the part where they start easing Makoto into the story. And by easing Makoto into the story, I mean they introduce her into the story a full month before her plot begins, and you just sort of see her popping in and out for a little while. Around when is it that she starts tailing you around the place? Do you know, like, at what point in the game that starts?
Later.
I want to say it's after Madarame. I don't believe it's during Madarame. I don't think.
Yeah, okay. I looked around at this point in the game, and she's not onto us yet. Although, she will be onto us in a day or two. Now, Wilson Fisk here, Principal Kingpin. I don't like him. He's a bit of an ass. But he's not that, in-your-face, horrible, commits, like, criminal atrocities kind of ass. He's more that really cynical, manipulates people by offering them incentives and or implied threats in order to get them to do what they want. Like, here he's saying, hey, if you do what you want, if you do what I want, I can write you a letter of recommendation to whatever college you want, and that'll make things smooth sailing. Oh, but if you don't, the backlash might hurt your sister's reputation. That would be a shame, wouldn't it?
Down with adults.
Don't trust anyone over 30. That means we can't trust John.
Oh man, in less than a year, no one will be able to trust me again either.
Oh no, I'm gonna be an enemy in April. Oh god.
You're all against us, man.
It's so weird playing this kind of game at this kind of age, I have to say.
Yeah, I would have loved this in high school. I mean, I already love it now, but I would have just loved it in high school.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like have this hope that I sort of hold out in my head, where I think that at certain points, it might be the case where younger people do play this game, and as they go through it, they might learn a thing or two about maturity. That, sometimes it's not just a matter of adults not being trustworthy, but keeping it all in perspective individually and forming your own judgments about individual people. But, maybe not.
Nah, man, we gotta score with Miss Kawakami. She's hot.
Wow. More text messages. Yeah, we're barely into the second month, and this is already getting a bit tiresome.
There are a lot, and I mean a lot of group chat.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Although, on that note, I am really, really liking the Persona 5 IM app. It's everything that I could have wished for. It's very stylish. Anyway, it turns out Mishima's not a complete idiot after all. In fact, he's pretty damn smart. And since he was so close to you when Ryuji and Kurusu decided to use the Metaverse to get back at Kamoshida, he connected the dots and figured out, hey, these two must be the Phantom Thieves. I mean,
he has no proof of it, though, but...
Yeah, I mean, well, Ryuji wasn't exactly subtle. So,
And unfortunately, we don't have billions of dollars to potentially blackmail him if he tries to expose us.
God damn.
well, it pays to have someone in the know who was actually helped by our actions, though, because Mishima, instead of going against us, becomes like one of the staunchest allies the Phantom Thieves could have. Not only did he make the Phantom Aficionado website, he's constantly policing it to make sure that your public image doesn't get buried underneath a bunch of trash posts, and he's keeping these polls active on the site so that he can gauge how the public opinion of the Phantom Thieves is shaping up. And the Phantom Aficionado website also proves to be a valuable resource in that it allows people to request help of the Phantom Thieves. And if they post a name and their situation is dire enough, the Phantom Thieves will help them out. And this is our side quest repository, basically.
And it actually makes sense for once.
Now, this is what I don't get about this particular part of the interrogation. Is Mishima seriously so good at interneting that they can't actually track the creator of the Phantom Aficionado website down?
I was gonna say.
Must use a VPN.
I mean, like, there are VPNs and there's stuff like that, but, there's ways to trace through that if you're not particularly careful. And, I'm just saying, if they really wanted to find who started the Phantom Aficionado website, they probably could.
And these old people don't know how the internet works. To them, it's just a series of tubes.
Well, now that I think about it, did they ever, did the Phantom Thieves themselves use the website to go after MedJet or anything?
I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so. No.
So ultimately, I don't think you could do anything for a fan site like that.
I was going to say, because, he's just a fan site supporting the Phantom Thieves. They're not doing anything illegal, and it's not necessarily... maybe they did track down the IP, saw that Mishima wasn't really doing anything, and they're like, well, he can't be the Phantom Thieves.
Yeah, well, it's strongly implied that the bad guys used the fan site to manipulate the Phantom Thieves later on in the story, but that's as far as that goes. But, in any case, I like how, Ryuji and An were just sort of hanging out in the background listening to the whole thing.
Come on, guys. You have to do it my way of listening. Just get right up to their face and stick your ear right in the conversation. They won't notice.
Yeah, but that they were so far away and they heard everything. It's like, wow, if anybody else had been in the room, this would have gone badly. It's also one of the few times I've seen a video game acknowledge that voices carry beyond the edge of the screen. Do you remember, in Final Fantasy VII, whenever Eris or someone wanted to have a private conversation, they just sort of ask you to turn around where you stood, and you just magically not be able to hear them?
Of course.
Don't say that out loud, Ryuji. That's... God. Is he picking a fight with a cat?
Oh, Ryuji, you're so stupid.
Whoa! Where did they all come from? You guys didn't hear that, did you?
Bye, Phantom Thieves.
They didn't do the proper eavesdropping technique as Akira mentioned earlier. They didn't stick their ears right in front of their faces.
All right.
I'm just going to go with the headcanon that everyone knows they're the Phantom Thieves. They're just not going to tell anybody.
Well, every one of your confidants does eventually figure it out, so... Oh, this is just me stepping out of the room to check and see if Makoto is already following me. She's not. I was disappointed. I also want to talk to the newspaper club member. I like the newspaper club member. She's one of the most memorable NPCs for me for a particularly specific to myself reason, and that's that I write on Persona-themed role-playing forums, and one of the more memorable characters that another player uses is big into was before she graduated into college, big into the school newspaper club. So I kind of see that character in her.
Mm.
It's something that I've been doing for like, what is it, like 4 or 5 years by now? So,
Long time.
Yeah, that stuff sticks in my head. Anyway, Makoto is no longer hanging around the library anymore. And that means he can use that table to read books now, I think.
I'm allowed to use the table.
Another thing that you can do now is, actually social link with An regularly, which is good because the Lover's social link also has some pretty good personas in it. As it happens, one of those personas is one of my favorites in the entire Shin Megami Tensei franchise. Ame no Uzume, also my favorite goddess of the Shinto pantheon for obvious reasons to anyone who's ever actually researched that stuff. Uzume has exactly one story attached to her as far as I know. She is the goddess of dawn, and the reason she's the goddess of dawn is that she tricked Amaterasu into coming out of a cave that she was hiding in at one point. None of the gods could figure out how to get her out. Uzume, outside the cave, hung a mirror, and then she overturned this bathtub and danced on top of it in front of the other gods, tearing off her clothes as she went, and this cracked them all up. And while they were laughing outside, Amaterasu heard the ruckus, crept out to see what was going on, and caught sight of herself in the mirror, and was so dazzled by her own beauty that she actually crept further out of the cave, and another god was able to rush in and seal the cave behind her, and the sun was back. Yes, that's how Shinto works, apparently. Japanese mythology is weird.
Japan is weird in general. See, Akira has the eavesdropping method down pat.
Anyway, it's time to hang out with An.
It felt like someone was watching me this morning. Yeah, me.
Now, even though you can start on social link earlier, and in fact, well, I think it was automatic, actually, but rank 2, you need to have a certain level of kindness in order to pursue it. Now, in my first playthrough, I actually had this level of kindness by the time I got here, so I'm not actually sure what rank you need. It's not very high, yeah.
It's pretty low. I feel like it's just rank 2.
Yeah, probably. And you know, it makes sense that you'd need kindness to help her talk through these kinds of things. It's a good deal less irritating than needing charm to social link with Yukari. Ugh.
I forget, did you have to max out charm with Yukari?
Yes!
Oh, good.
Yes, you did. Yukari wasn't available until like July after the Yakushima trip, so it was possible you already had charm maxed out by then. Possible, but not all too likely, unless you knew to do it beforehand. I knew to do it beforehand, which is why I was able to social link with Yukari properly, but it's something that you could trip over if you're going into that game blind. On the subject of Persona 3, now that they've got shiny new models for this Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight game, I am crossing my fingers and desperately hoping for a Persona 3 remake. Because of the 3 modern Persona games, Persona 3 has aged terribly. And I'd like to see it freshened up a little.
It would be nice to have some great definitive version.
Yeah, something with, well, at least the presentation value of the PS2 version, but also the content of both FES and the portable version. Because that's the big thing with Persona 3, is like, you have to choose between 2 potentially definitive versions. The FES version, which has the answer and all of the cutscenes and the most balanced version of the main game, and portable, which has the added difficulty modes, the female protagonists run through the game, which is arguably better designed, and really bad cutscenes.
I was going to say the ability to control your party members.
The ability to control your party members, too. Yeah, it's got Persona 4's gameplay engine in there, which is definitely a plus. So, yeah, Persona 3 is a hard game to recommend. It's like, hey, which do you want? Cutscenes or gameplay? You can't have both. And you can't have cutscenes with a better protagonist.
This is one of those. We talked about it in earlier parts, but this is one of the early examples of not necessarily agreeing with them being the correct answer.
Yeah. If you're honest with On and say, yeah, you've got a point about yourself there, that's actually the best answer out of those ones. It's surprising, but like usually, when a character and a confidant is admitting stuff about themselves, it's a good idea to talk them through it rather than denying it and telling them it's all good. Kurusu would make a pretty decent psychiatrist, whichever.
He'd be pretty decent at everything because he's maxed out on all of his stats.
Well, I think it barely comes up, but On does suffer a bit of judgment from her peers, partly because she's so naturally pretty. That comes up in a vaguely surprising way as she goes through later ranks, because after we get past the parts where she's talking about strengthening her heart, which is actually the first time I think any of the characters in Persona has directly referenced this as a source of power other than Igor. She starts getting into her magazine model job, and there's this rivalry later on with a fellow model, and it resolves itself in a surprising way that actually kind of made me like On a lot more than I did at the start of the game. I was expecting her to not be all that complicated a character, but she made me smile a few times. Like, I wound up feeling like this was a pretty damn well-rounded character by the end of the game. And I feel that way to varying degrees about the entire cast, but On is one of the ones that wound up higher on my list of favorites than I expected to at the beginning of the game.
It's always nice when an RPG doesn't just forget about the starting game characters once the plot moves along.
Yeah, Persona's pretty good about that. Much better than the Final Fantasy series, where characters like Barrett, for example, tend to stop developing past a certain point, or god damn, the protagonist of Final Fantasy 13 stops developing about 10% of the way through the first game and then doesn't do anything until Lightning Returns.
Or like one of my few complaints about 9 with Freya.
Yeah, Freya doesn't get much development after a point either. That was unfortunate. I feel like Persona does more with its writing, and this is in part because of the calendar structure, but it was also true of Persona 2 as well, where the characters stay relevant and continue to grow throughout the game. I say it was true of Persona 2 because I haven't played very far into Persona 1 and don't necessarily know how true that holds of that game. Because Persona 1's structure is different.
It's weird where, like, Persona 1, it's easy to have party members that other players might not, that aren't really relevant to the plot, you know?
Yeah. Persona 1 does the Shin Megami Tensei If thing, where as you go through the opening parts of the game, you're basically choosing which party members that you're going to keep with you for the rest of the playthrough. And,
or as I found out, you just don't say yes to everything, or you'll miss out on that. Because I was just like, the first guy I met, I was like, yeah, you can join me, Brown, whatever. Yeah. And that was it. I was stuck with Brown. I couldn't get anyone else. I was like, oh.
Yeah. And Brown is not my favorite. He is not.
I do like why he's nicknamed Brown.
Oh yeah, we're starting to hear about Madarame. You see, the amount of times that you hear Madarame's name on television here, I just kept waiting for a Kurusu or Morgana to say, hey, that must be the guy that Shadow mentioned.
Or they just all turn to the screen and go, everybody got that?
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet. That's at the end of this part, I think, because this is the first Mementos part that we're going through, which is why it turned out to be longer than other parts. But, the you keep hearing Madarame's name on the television after that point, and nobody frickin' acknowledges it until the story decides to let you. And I can sort of understand why that might be the case. Like, there are probably a lot of people in Japan that happen to share that last name, but at some point someone's like, hey, maybe we should look into that guy. He's a bigwig, and he's got the same name as the guy that Shadow is complaining about. So maybe, just maybe, there's something not right there.
Yeah, it's always just convenient writing for me, because it's like, they're not going to mention Medjed this month, they're not going to mention Okumura this month, but when those things become relevant, all of a sudden the news is talking about him a lot, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, there are a few references to Medjed early on, but it's something that you probably won't notice because it's so few and far between.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is time to go do the thing where we
You're getting a job?
talk to a Y. Well, I'm picking up the beef ball job while I'm here before I forget, because I actually do need the beef ball job to start the Sun Confidant. But I'm not gonna start the Sun Confidant for a bit yet, because the thing about the Sun Confidant and the Hanged Man Confidant is that they tend to overlap a lot. And I really want to get the Hanged Man Confidant in early this playthrough so that I can actually make use of all the goddamn upgrade system stuff. The thing about the upgrade system, though, is that it costs a lot of money. Fortunately, in my previous playthrough, I maxed out Mishima's Confidant, and Mishima's Confidant gift gives you access to all of the experience and money-boosting abilities his Confidant would give you from the start, as long as you got rank 1 with him. So from this point on, I'm going to be gaining a bit more experience from every battle, a bit more money from every battle, and that all is going to add up, especially since it's starting this early on in the game. I'm going to have a lot more money from battles than I did the previous run-through with less overall grinding. Oh god. I forgot that was there. Look in the background there. That's a smoking booth.
Yep.
Why is there a smoking booth outdoors?
Also, I think, is this the first time that we start hearing lyrics at night? Like, we actually have vocals when you're walking around at night?
Yeah, the nighttime theme gains its vocals after the first month, which is nice.
It was such a nice surprise. Like, I was already kind of digging the theme, but once the vocals kicked in, I was like, nice! This game just kept getting better.
Actually, the PS4 dynamic themes for this game play the music. Not the vocal versions, just the non-vocal versions. There's some of the themes have the nighttime theme, some of them have the daytime theme, and the Velvet Room theme has Aria of the Soul, which is nice. I do like PS4 themes that come packed in with music.
Yeah, I just pre-ordered Undertale on PS4, and there's actually an original song. It's like a similar theme to the main theme, Undertale. But it's actually a good background. I really like the Undertale PS4 dynamic background.
Yeah, I should probably get my hands on the PS4 version of Undertale one of these days. But I probably won't bother until I feel like playing through it again.
It's not out yet. I just pre-ordered it.
Yeah. The thing about a game like Undertale is that I kind of have to let myself cool off from the game and forget some of it, or at least let some of my knowledge of the game recede into the background of my mind so that I can experience it in a fresher way than I would on, like, playing it twice back-to-back or something. So I probably won't play it again until next year. It's time to ask you why. What's in the bag?
What's in the box, man? What's in the box?
What's in the fucking box?
Fortunately, I am overflowing with guts.
You have guts. You're huge, Akira. That means you have huge guts.
I am overflowing with guts. Do you see them? They're all over the floor. In fact, I should probably mop that up. It's disgusting. Anyway, when he says he has a customer who is interested in it, I think that's an implication that the gun that we were smuggling out for him was originally customized for his Yakuza contact, who has been pressuring him to make more realistic model guns. So, our social link with EY is going to, for at least the first half of his confidant anyway, it's going to be chiefly concerned with investigating what's up with that Yakuza guy. Which is why it requires guts in order to unlock and proceed with. Because, well, for a teenager to be nosing into Yakuza affairs is...
Danger, danger!
It's not exactly the most intelligent thing Akira Kurusu has ever done.
At your age.
Now, for a while, I thought that Iwai had, like, these killer yellow shades on his hat, but it turns out it's headphones that he just wears on his cap for some reason.
This could work.
And I always look at characters who have those kind of things, like wearing headphones, wearing these big old bulky over-ear headphones on the neck in Yosuke's case, or wearing goggles on their forehead, and I'm like, oh, really? You're walking around like that? That looks uncomfortable. Does anyone in the real world do that?
Someone has to, I guess.
And if they do, are they some kind of Zen master? Is it like walking around with Master Roshi's turtle shell on their back or something? Is it some kind of fortitude training?
Destroying evidence, and as a reward, I'll introduce you to the special menu with good prices for.
I'm on probation, sir.
That's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. Gotta fight evil with evil.
Okay.
So you're saying then, sir, I'm an anti-hero.
I'm Batman. No, wait, I'm Cake Knight.
Now what's it gonna be? You gonna take my deal or not?
Okay. So, we are officially in cahoots with a a former Yakuza who's trying to dick over the Yakuza, and oh dear.
We're gonna do some legwork.
I'm on probation.
My best tip with this social link is, like, you want to be a dick to a Y, because that actually helps. He likes it when you're rude. He likes it when you're kind of a brat.
Yeah, well, I should say he likes it in the later social ranks. It's in the first two that you want to be somewhat, polite with him. He starts to trust you pretty early on, though, and that's when you can rag on him a little.
I think that's also a matter of him getting the confidence that you won't just squeal the just a random person who might try to push you around a little bit.
Yeah, you prove you're reliable by getting past rank 2, and then I think you can sort of joke around with him after that. Alright. Now, here's what I want to know. Why is it that Sai Nijima was unable to figure out that Akira Kurusu frequented the airsoft shop? I mean, in my playthrough, I was going there like once every couple of days. At some point, someone's gonna see frizzy hair here walking down that alley. And even if, you don't go to the airsoft shop specifically every time, the Velvet Room is right next door, so you're still walking down that alley. Every single goddamn day.
Oh yeah. When I don't
They're just toys, cop. Nothing illegal.
Just very, very realistic looking toys.
There's plenty for you to do around here.
Well, that's her concern. Like, I'm sure some people really thought those guns were genuine.
All right, that's enough for
Well,
Get out of here.
that's done, and we can all breathe a little bit more relaxed because, well, we're not talking to Yakuza guy anymore.
I'm making friends with everyone.
I'm kind of wondering, like, I understand why people like tattoos, but why would someone get a tattoo of a tiny lizard on the side of their neck?
I don't know, maybe a former Yakuza thing, I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I know in Japan tattoos are associated with Yakuza, although I think in recent times Yakuza have stopped pushing them as much because, well, it's kind of a dead giveaway that someone is associated with you if you have a gang tattoo. But,
Also, just the thing of tattoos getting a slight bit more acceptance as a normal thing, as long as it's not, like, too overdone.
yeah, slightly, though, is the key word. They're not as accepted in Japan by far as they are over here.
Even a slight bit amount still helps a ton for something like that.
Yeah, but, like, even over here, you still got people who are stupid about it. Like, just the other day, my stepfather was having a conversation with his daughter, like, why do you need to get a tattoo? And, you know, he wasn't being super pushy about it, but, well, why does it have to be necessary? I mean, why do you need to wear the shirt that you wear every morning?
Yep.
People just have aesthetic sensibilities. It's fine.
Oh no, not exams.
Open your textbook.
And, like, for, I think, police or the military, tattoos are still automatically possible gang symbols, which in a lot of places I would assume disqualifies you from applying. Eh. I like this tangent Kawakami goes on about the Kaguya story being about a terrible woman. Like, she's really, really disapproving of Princess Kaguya. It's like an old Japanese fairy tale kind of myth.
It's the oldest surviving story in Japan.
Yeah, and Kawakami is like, that woman was awful. Okay. I feel like this is a Japanese parallel of me going on about how Romeo and Juliet was a story about two stupid teenagers and not a love story at all.
Well, it is a story about two stupid teenagers and not a love story at all.
Yeah, I know, but try telling everyone else that. Half of them won't listen. Ugh.
I thought instead of Romeo and Juliet, I thought you were going to say about Marie in Golden.
Well, Marie is only half a stupid teenager, though. Doesn't even have the depth of a whole teenager. Yeah, I said it. I like her design, but that's about all that's good about her. Well, that and her character in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is pretty fun to use.
Now we're talking about femme fatales.
Yeah. Segue into a bit of a factoid about Ann's persona. I do like that they make the questions and answers in the classroom more relevant to the overall game, because that was a bit of a problem that I had with Persona 3 and 4, is that, you know, the questions and answers didn't really add anything other than opportunities to boost your skills. Like, you had to answer them right to make the most of the skill boost opportunities, but you also had to listen to the lectures in order to remember the facts that would pop up on your midterms and finals. But
Can't pass with a single night of criming? Yeah, Miss Kawakami, you haven't been in high school in forever, have you? We all used to just do that in high school.
Yeah, but I feel like the facts that you learn during these lectures stick in your head more because the facts and the lectures attached to them are relevant to the game. Like, the game and the lectures feed into each other, and that makes it all a bit more of a cohesive experience. And for me, at least, that actually helps me remember the stuff that I'm learning. Sometimes when I get to the midterm or final exam, I don't even need to look up the answer on my cheat sheet. I remember the answer from when I went through it before.
What? Knowledge needs to be practical in order for it to stick, you don't say.
Well, not necessarily practical, but interesting. And interest is generated by relevance. Either it's relevant to something that you like, or it's relevant to something that's going on. And those just prompt your brain to prioritize it more.
easy for a little longer. Then worry about coming up empty-handed if it happens.
I like this animation where Ryuji is like kicking back on the fold-up chair with his foot on the desk, because I do that all the time.
Place is off limits, you know.
We'll get out of here once we're done chatting. Anyways,
Now,
what's Miss Council President
Makoto does not make the best first impression here.
And the infamous
And if I didn't already know that her persona was a motorcycle from the trailers, I probably would have not liked her when she walked out here. As it happens, the fact that her persona is a motorcycle is another thing that ties back into the roleplay forum stuff that I've been doing for the last handful of years. So, I was already a bit prejudiced in favor of Makoto when she showed up in this game.
I heard Mr. Kamoshida used a volleyball team member to spread details of your past record. Don't you hate him, Mr. Kamoshida?
I think everyone hated him.
At this point, that's a stupid question.
My friend here's an upstanding guy.
I don't mean to offend.
I don't mean to offend. Well, you did. So...
Rumors about that odd calling card-esque posting aren't going away either.
I didn't expect someone like you would care about that tactless stuff, Nijima-senpai.
That was surprisingly formal for An.
Anyways, we done here? We can't leave.
Surprisingly formal for the English language, in fact. I don't think that translated all that well.
Senpai in general really doesn't. So
Well, no,
it's kind of
I wasn't
No. I know what you're getting at, but ultimately, trying to insert something along the lines of senpai in English language just makes it more awkward versus trying to sound overly polite. It doesn't really translate well, so you can't make it sound the way you want to.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to the honorific, though. I was actually referring to the use of the word tactless. It seems like the wrong word to use in that situation. And it's also a word that I don't hear teenagers using much. Maybe times have changed since I was in high school, though.
Study hard.
You're old. You're old.
Keep in mind that everything you do in your daily lives has an impact on your abilities.
Now, I like how Morgana is actually, like, telling the party members that, hey, all of this random bullshit you're doing in your real world stuff applies to your persona abilities and what you're doing in the metaverse in some way or another. I'm like, okay, that's only true of the protagonist, because we all know Ryuji's gonna fail at everything. But, thanks for at least trying to show them the way of the wild card.
Way of the wild card. Just guess every answer. You're bound to get something right. Answer C's on every question.
Anyway, it is now time to enter the metaverse again. This is something that you're mostly going to be doing in between dungeon runs, because when you're using time on the metaverse while you've got plot stuff to be doing, you are invariably going to the next plot dungeon. But when you don't have anything left to do in the plot dungeon, Mementos is the way to go. It allows you to grind very easily. The floors are randomly generated along with the treasure chest, so you can get more items that way. And you'll usually have at least one or two side quests on your back burner to do. The thing about Mementos, though, is it still eats up your entire day. So I wouldn't actually spend too much time going to Mementos until you have access to Kawakami's massage feature, which I will have as soon as I hit rank 1 thanks to her confidant gift, which is going to be a bit awkward in this playthrough because she normally doesn't do that until rank 10. And jumping straight to massages at night, straight out of the gate with Kawakami is going to be awkward.
Good thing we're charming.
I'm perfect in every way.
I say that because by the time you get to that point in a fresh playthrough, you've gone through all of her story, and it feels like, you know, that level of trust between them is earned. But, doing that, like, right after rank 1 strikes me as a bit wrong. It's like, a weird place where the context of the game's first playthrough doesn't carry over into a new game, into a new game plus rather.
It kind of feels like I'm walking on air.
Walking on sunshine.
That's half right, but half wrong.
Anyway, yeah.
This is the type of
Mementos.
it's different from the normal one.
Persona 3 had randomly generated dungeons. Persona 4 had structured dungeons, bland ones, but they were pre-built. They had set layouts. Persona 5 meets these two design philosophies halfway by having the palaces, which are these big, very deliberately structured, explorative dungeons with puzzles and whatever to go through. And Mementos, which is pretty much exactly what Tartarus was in Persona 3, except that it heads down instead of up. Which is a shake-up Persona 3 The Answer already did, actually. So, yeah.
Since the moment we stepped in,
Mementos, though,
You should have told us.
is the collective unconscious. And I think this is the first time, at least since Persona 3, that the phrase collective unconscious has come up in, has come up directly in a Persona game. But that's a big part of Jungian psychology, the stuff that Persona is based on.
start explaining.
So, it's interesting to see that come up here.
Everyone's palace.
Huh? What do you mean, everyone's?
Morgana's about to tell us.
As grand as the previous castle,
Everyone!
are extremely distorted.
The unfortunate thing about Mementos is that at times it kind of looks like a Devil May Cry 2 area, and that's not something that I say is a positive. Devil May Cry 2 had a very bland sort of,
From Kamoshida's palace.
Everything.
yeah,
You say
it had bland everything. Well, except that
Even though they're
Dante's
cheaters?
design and the animations of the characters you actually played as were all really good. Like, they were some really smooth, cool-looking animations. But that's like
Using this place,
the only
even changed the
fucking positive element that I can say about Devil May Cry 2. And one of the things that sticks out to me in my head is like the last area, or one of the last areas of Devil May Cry 2, was all these hallways. And as you go through them, you're basically backtracking through the same area like 3 times, something like that. It gets more warped, and as it gets warped, it has these kind of like slimy growths along the walls and stuff that you see around that pillar there. It's that exact kind of thing.
car?
Now, this here is a Japanese pop culture reference I don't get. Apparently, a surprisingly common public cognition, according to Morgana, is cats turning into buses. Apparently, this is some television show in Japan that was.
Well, it's
popular.
also referenced in My Neighbor Totoro.
Say a bus, though.
Oh,
Yeah, the cat bus.
well,
Yeah, if it's famous enough for even Miyazaki to use it, it's pretty famous there.
yeah. So, this is just something that Americans are probably not gonna get. But yeah, Morgana transforms into a bus. The DLC contains stickers that you can stick on the side of the bus to change, like decals.
Someone turn on What Is Love.
I'm not sure where to change the decals though, so we're going to be going as just plain old Morgana bus for a while. Sorry, viewers. I'll show off the costumes at least, though. I know where those are. It's time to bust my moves.
I love that they all got in the backseat because they assumed Morgana was going to drive itself. Oh, I guess I gotta drive. Whatever.
Honestly, that's a pretty good assumption based on
Yeah, I know.
what's happening.
I just love the realization, I can't go by myself, you have to drive. Oh, okay. Whatever. I've never driven a cat before.
This is like that dog car in Dumb and Dumber.
Lower, lower.
Oh my.
That feels so.
Oh my.
Is that Buran I hear? Oh, what a creepy ass car.
Yeah, there are some puns built into this situation that I don't want to go to. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm sure someone in the comments will figure it out though. Anyway, Path of Kimron.
Whoa.
Path of Q.
Kimrunats, or whatever, tutorial area is a tutorial area. And it's just a couple of floors. In fact, I think it might just be one floor. In any case, this is just here to teach you what Mementos is. Because at this point, the idea of a procedurally generated dungeon has not been introduced. Basically, though, everything that you knew about Tartarus applies to this place. They also introduced in Persona 4 Golden a function that allows you to use the map to immediately jump to the next floor or the previous floor if the staircase leading to them is already mapped out. So one of the things that you can very easily do while clearing the floors, and I take advantage of this a hell of a lot in this playthrough, is find the stairs and then just go clear the rest of the floor and then use the map to jump ahead. You don't actually have to drive back to the stairs. It's very convenient.
Yeah.
In Persona 4 Vanilla, you actually did have to go back to the stairs if you found them first and then decided to go clear the rest of the floor you were on. But Golden allowed you to just quick travel straight to it.
What do? We're a frickin' bus. Just hit it.
That is how you launch your attacks on enemies. You ram them with the bus.
Meanwhile, new outfits.
Yeah. And whatever outfit your main character is wearing will change the battle theme, as you can clearly hear.
Baby.
I don't like that theme all that much. Well, I mean, I like the theme, but by the end of Persona 3, the first 6 seconds of an RPG battle theme can make or break your experience sometimes. It doesn't just need to be good, it also needs to be something you can stand hearing over and over throughout the game. Otherwise, it'll drive you crazy. Last Surprise is great about that, and Persona 4's battle theme was great about that, but Persona 3's battle theme really was not.
Disagree completely. Persona 3 is like one of my favorite. I think it is my favorite battle theme. I always get into the chorus when it starts getting into the baby.
Well, that part is great. It's the beginning of the battle theme that drives me crazy.
I love
I seriously think the battle theme in The Answer does the beginning of the battle theme better. Like,
yeah.
it's less annoying to hear that part of that remix over and over again than the beginning of the original Mass Destruction. But I like Wiping All Out. That is the most English title ever. More than Mass Destruction. I like that battle theme more. It's probably one of my favorite battle themes in the series.
I will say that, like, the first time I played Persona 3, it was the most unexpected thing, because the whole beginning of Persona 3 was very moody. You know, there was, like, the scene with Yukari. It looked like she's going to kill herself, but really she's just afraid to use the gun on herself and summon her persona. And it was a very dark, mysterious vibe. It was, you didn't know quite what was going on, and then it gets into the battle. Baby. It just goes over the top, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yes, it was.
Time's draw near.
Now, I am leaving these battles in because there aren't really all that many of them. Because the tutorial section of Mementos is just kind of really short. I'll be cutting them out the next time I go to Mementos and on all battles after that. Though. So, Mementos is going to be difficult to balance for this playthrough, for one very particular reason. All of the enemies that you fight in Mementos are enemies that you fought in the last dungeon you completed. Every time you complete a plot dungeon, a pathway opens up to a new section of Mementos, and it has all of the demons that the palace you just completed had. Like, the deeper you go through an area, the stronger the monsters become. But you'll never really have all that much trouble with the demons in Mementos because the demons in Mementos are...
There's the things you'll always have fought by this point.
Yeah, by definition, they're lower level than you. It's a good opportunity to go back and get personas that you were too low level to recruit, which becomes a bit of an issue about the midpoint of the game. Like when you encounter Mott or something like that in Futaba's dungeon, you won't necessarily be able to recruit it as a persona because its level, even though it's something that you can totally beat, its level is higher than yours, and Kurusu can only recruit a demon if he is at an equal or higher level. Otherwise, they'll just say, hey, you're not strong enough, but here, have a consolation item. So, that's something to keep in mind.
God damn, our physical attacks are already one-shotting them.
Yeah, and this is with weapons that you can have at this point in the game, and it's hard mode.
Yeah, friggin' turnip head's so easy. You all look ridiculous with your glasses on.
I am kind of salty that the battle theme that they used with that they decided to use for the Persona 4 outfits is Time to Make History from Persona 4 Golden, because I didn't really like that battle theme much. And the only reason I put up with them adding it to Persona 4 Golden was because hearing Reach Out to the Truth as the battle theme when you got a preemptive strike in that game felt like an honest reward because of it. Like, you got a second battle theme and it was better. And I'm just a sucker for a JRPG that, you know, has the bright idea to include multiple battle themes because...
Yeah, that would have been interesting for Persona 5 if we had Last Surprise and also another theme for when you sneak up on them. That'd be different.
Well, Last Surprise would obviously be the sneak up on them theme.
Yeah, that's true.
But who knows? Persona 5, the Crimson? Maybe?
Isn't that a character from Dirge of Cerberus?
Oh, Rosa the Crimson, you're right. The generic femme fatale.
Which we just talked about in school today. How convenient.
The bosses in Dirge of Cerberus were all, like, very obvious Metal Gear Solid homages, or if you want to be more cynical, rip-offs. Like Azul the Cerulean was so obviously Vulcan Raven, and Rosa the Crimson really, really felt like a Sniper Wolf reference. That kind of thing.
Into the red hole we go.
Anyway, I will be showing off the costume DLCs for random battles in Mementos, but whenever I fight a shadow for a side quest, I will always switch back to the character's default outfits, because this is just a personal preference thing on my end, but I find alternate costumes, for the most part, distracting, unless it's something low-key like wearing the casual clothes in Persona 4, which makes sense as something that the characters would do in universe. But I don't like fighting bosses or going through plot dungeons in the DLC costumes in this game. I like to have my cool, stylish Phantom Thief outfits going on. That's just how I roll. Anyway, Shadow Nakanohara. Some Japanese names are tongue twisters.
The emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Nakanohara. Or Nakanohara. I don't even know how this is supposed to be pronounced.
Bacchus Noharas.
But
either way, I prefer this over Persona 4's like side quest system where like you had to get a whole bunch of trinkets and deliver it to an NPC or something. I much prefer this as being the side quests where you take out actual shadows and mementos and that helps solve things and get you stuff.
Yeah, I mean the side quests in Personas 3 and 4 were basically just grinding quests. You get certain items, or you find certain treasure chests, or you fuse certain personas, and the fusing certain personas is still in here, but it takes a different form. But the thing
Why
about...
does I just want to know, why does this shadow boss look like something that would come straight out of the Gorillas?
I don't know.
I don't know, it has that look to it. That makes me think of him.
Well, I'm not sure what this demon even is. I've never looked up its myth, and all I know is that it's like all the other demons, a standard Shin Megami Tensei demon. It's one of the cuter ones. I mean, it's got that
It's happily bouncing around.
bowl cut, doing this jaunty dance.
And he's confused.
It's not confused, it's forgetful. Forgetful is basically silence.
Ah.
So, basically,
Oops.
if you use Ryuji's headbutt ability, this boss becomes a complete effing joke. I should just roll credits right here. End the part. It's over. This thing can't do fucking anything to me.
Just keep
Yeah,
doing
Persona
headbutt.
5 was short.
And status ailments can be quite helpful in this game. I don't think you'll ever be able to nail a boss with despair, but apart from that, you should probably experiment with status ailments on at least the Memento sub-bosses. I'll say right now, status ailments don't work on plot bosses. For the obvious reason that the plot bosses have their own particular method to defeating them, and it's usually unorthodox.
Otherwise, it'd be almost too easy to break.
Yeah, well, there are other methods that you can use to break certain bosses, like Shadow Sai is pretty much entirely physical element, except for this one super attack that's technically almighty. So if you have Horror on your team, or a Persona on your main character that can use Tetrakarn, you can actually just cast that over and over on your party members, and half of Sai's attacks will just bounce back at her, and the boss becomes ridiculously easy at that point. It costs a lot of SP to keep doing it, but it's something that you can use to break that boss over your knee. But yeah, that's over.
Oh, you
Oh.
missed!
I don't care. This thing can't hurt me. I like how the demon for Nakanohara has the same bowl cut Nakanohara does. I realized that was probably part of Nakanohara's design because they decided to use that demon for his shadow. But it's the one time the demon design and the shadow that it represents have some sort of physical characteristic that makes them work together. The other demons are just random demon that's somewhat thematically relevant to them, but only somewhat.
Please forgive me.
Anyway, Shadow Nakanohara is the first bit of information that we get about Madarame, and I have a feeling that they decided to write it like this because otherwise there's not really any way for these characters to find out about the evil doings of some well-known Japanese artiste, you know? But yeah, if any of you were uncomfortable with the subject matter being discussed around Shadow Kamoshida, good news. Shadow Madarame is a plagiarist, which is horrible, especially when you get to the point where he let someone die in front of him in order to steal their work, but not nearly as uncomfortable. We're going to be talking about a guy who steals artists' paintings and takes credit for them, which, is really awful, but kind of tame by comparison. With all of the other villains in this game, actually. Madarame is good at making you hate him, but not for the shock value reason that some of the other villains in this game do. The third one is Kaneshiro, who's Mafia, so that's obvious. And then,
And the dark ending of Kaneshiro is pretty fucked up.
Yeah. But Madarame is just sort of sandwiched between the mafia boss and the abusive gym teacher as this This villain that doesn't necessarily make you hate him through the atrocities he commits, but through the attitude he maintains while committing them. The guy's false modesty is just so goddamn irritating when you know what he's actually been doing.
I like the contrast that everyone really did hate Kamoshida because they were being abused by him. Everyone had a bone to pick with him. They just couldn't do anything. Madarame is a little bit of a special case where most people love him and they don't know that he's doing all these horrible things to certain people.
Yeah, and the one person who actually does have a direct reason, well, the one person in your party who actually does have a direct reason to hate Madarame doesn't know at first and is only forced to accept it halfway through the plot dungeon when he joins your party. So now Morgana says, hey, you can sell whatever treasure you get for cash. He's probably referring to the little trinkets you get in the dungeon, because the stuff that you get from the actual shadows are usually stuff that you want to keep and use. You can get some pretty decent stuff from the side quest shadows as well.
I mean, on top of the reason to just you want to do them, because that's kind of what you want to do as the Phantom Thieves, but...
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think some of the shadows also give you items that unlock new Persona fusions. But it's been a while since I have played through, so I'm not sure. All I know...
They definitely do. They definitely do.
Yeah, okay. All I know for certain, though, is that there aren't that many side quests. So, I actually kind of like it, because there's just enough side quests in this game to keep you invested in Mementos the whole way through. But it never feels like there's a huge backlog. Never feels like there's a whole lot to do. Like at the most, and this is just because I let my side quests pile up so I can take care of multiple ones in one day and save some calendar time. At most, you're probably going to have, I want to say 3 at most. So, and that's easy. You can just blitz through, fight 3 sub-bosses, and then go home. It's not like Persona 3, where you'd probably be doing 5 or 6 grind side quests, and you'd wind up spending 3 hours doing them all. Anyway, in case you couldn't tell, I'm getting my least favorite costume DLC packs out of the way during the tutorial session, so that I can skip straight to the ones that I like later on. I am not a fan of Persona 1's uniform design.
It's very bland looking.
It's the blandest.
I said they're using the PSP theme and not the original PlayStation.
Yeah, but that's probably for the best. I don't think the original PlayStation battle theme would have fit very well with the pacing of Persona 5's combat system.
No, and I like the PSP soundtrack. I really did enjoy that soundtrack quite a bit.
I do. I like it. There's only 2 things that I don't like about the PSP version of Persona 1. And the first thing is that there's no option to switch back to the original soundtrack if you want to.
Yeah.
And 2, the new soundtrack doesn't have it.
I like that the victory theme is the opening theme from the PSP game.
It's a little awkward as a victory theme, though. But the new soundtrack in the PSP version of Persona 1 doesn't have an awakening theme. It just plays the normal battle theme during the awakening sequences, which bugs the shit out of me, because Awakening Legend is one of the best tracks in the original game, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, yeah. There's this really slow build-up throughout Mementos toward whatever's in the depths that you're trying to get to. Spoiler alert, just like Tartarus and Persona 3, Mementos is the site of the final dungeon, and you have to get to the bottom of it in order to complete the game. So, I would recommend going through Mementos as you play the game, so that by the time you get to the final day of the game, you can just enter the depths and play through.
It was a lot easier in Persona 3 because, you know, that was like where you got most of your experience. Why you always went to Tartarus to prepare for the boss fights that were going to happen at the end of the month. So you were naturally going to go through Tartarus as it happened. With Mementos, though, it's like you have individual palaces where you're going after Kaneshiro, you're going after Kamoshida, Madarame. So sometimes it could be easy to forget about Mementos if you're not doing the side quests, I imagine, but...
Somewhat. Although, the game does do a good job of encouraging you to go down to Mementos because of Mishima, who,
Yeah.
supplies you with side quests, and you're encouraged to go do those side quests because it's a requirement to rank up his confidant. So it feeds into itself pretty well.
And then there's your other social links. Like, I know you can't max out Futaba unless you do one in the Mementos. One for Kawakami, one for... There's tons of social links who need you to go into Mementos, so...
Yeah. And there was a similar system to that, actually, in Persona 3 Portable, where certain social links would actually wind up being trapped in Tartarus at certain points in the game. And you'd have a time limit, I think, for rescuing them, otherwise they would just disappear for the rest of the playthrough, which is dark. I think, like, one of them is the bookshop owner, or one of the two bookshop owners. And that's tragic to think about, those, you know, cheerful old people getting trapped in Tartarus. Ugh. Woo. Okay, so the thing about these gateway things, they are
Gates.
They're kind of symbol. They're kind of a symbol for the public perception of the Phantom Thieves. The more the public believes in the Phantom Thieves, the further into Mementos you can go. One of the things that kind of bugs me, just a little bit, is the way, like, toward the end of the game, well, toward the mid-end of the game, all this time, Morgana has been talking about how the gates open in response to public perception of the Phantom Thieves and all, and then another character introduces this concept again, and someone, I think it was Ryuji, talks about it like he's only hearing it for the first time, and Morgana looks like really depressed about this. It's like they weren't listening to me. And now they're giving this other person credit for my idea. It's like the one place where I feel like the writing of this game trips over itself and lands in a place that's kind of stupid. In fact, Morgana's whole temper tantrum around the time Haru was introduced is only really tolerable because Haru was just too cute during that episode.
Everyone's palace. It's the source of all palaces. It used to be that palaces like Kamoshida's with one ruler simply didn't exist. So if we can do
Alrighty.
something about the greatest cause of distortions,
Talk, plot. And, like, the one time that it matters that people can see them while they're having these conversations out in public is the time when it's a future party member who sees them.
I'll be relying on you guys.
No problem, Kitty.
By the way, Morgana, are you a boy?
The $1,000,000 question.
Girl.
Could it be a car?
That is a possibility.
And I love how Anne just plays along.
I just can't be sure.
Why not?
In my playthrough, I asked if it was a girl. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say, he insists that he's a male.
What is it?
I like how, like, Morgana almost speaks out the justification that, hey, I must be male because I'm attracted to this woman here. But sort of realizes that would be a stupid thing to say out loud.
There weren't any other outstanding ones, though.
I bet we'll get tons of them if we can change someone famous and make the Phantom Thieves well known. The big fish are.
Yeah, can we stop repeating that?
First, you need to find a way to get through your exams.
No. Lotus!
Yeah, and unfortunately we're not going to be getting to the next plot dungeon until after the midterm exams.
But of course.
One thing I will say is that you are not going to ace the midterm exams on your first playthrough. It's just not going to happen. I don't think there's any incentive for getting top ranks in the exams this time.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, the thing about the exams in Personas 3 and 4 is that if you got the top rank, there was usually a character who would give you a special gift accessory or something for it. Like, you could talk to Nanako in Persona 4 and she'd have, like, a new crafted bracelet for you, which functions as a pretty good accessory at any point in the game that you manage to get one. And, in Persona 3, Mitsuru would always give you a reward because Mitsuru really wanted to encourage the other members of SEAS to do well on tests. So, yeah.
Doesn't Sojiro give you something at one point? I don't feel like he does all the time, but I feel like at some points he does.
I don't know. I don't think I ever got one. Well, if he did give me any gifts for doing the exams, I completely missed out on them. One, because I didn't actually I didn't actually get top rank in any of the finals until way late in the game. And two, because by that point I just assumed that it wasn't something that was going to happen, so I didn't bother talking to him much. The thing about getting top ranks in the exams in this game is I think the required rank for doing it is almost always either maximum or very close to it. There is a minimum knowledge rank that you need to reach in order to do well on the exam, however, and if you do well, you get a charm boost, as usual.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because, like, even if you get every single question right, if your intelligence isn't that high, you're never gonna be the best in the class, but if your intelligence is through the roof, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, the exam system hasn't changed much from 3 and 4. You have two components that you need to get right. You need to actually answer the questions right, and the questions are always tied to lessons that you had in previous cutscenes. And you need to and on the final day, it'll rank your performance on the general test based on your knowledge stat, or your academic stat in Persona 3's case. So, between how much you're paying attention as a player and how much your character has been boosting their academic performance, you'll do better or worse on the tests, and it's better to do better. I'll just say that.
Obviously. I mean, it's a test after all, so...
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're trying to, like, lower the curve to screw someone else over or something.
Could you imagine if there was a mechanic in Persona that, like, you could fail your class, and then you'd have to be held over another grade? Or you can't go to the college you want to go to or something?
Oh, man. But, the odd thing about Japanese schools, and this is something that I only learned because of Persona, so thanks, Persona. Apparently they post exam scores publicly in the hallway.
Yes, they do.
I'm just like, wow.
That's one way to motivate you.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't want to look like an idiot.
No, wait, I tell a lie. The first time I found out about that wasn't Persona. It was Yu-Gi-Oh! There was one of the very early manga issues in the first, like, 7 volumes before the Duel Monsters card game took the show over. Took the comic over, rather, had the exams posted on the wall thing going on. I was like, wow, is that really a thing they do over there?
Yep, it is. Oh, I can't guarantee every school, but I know it's a thing that they can do there.
It just seems like slightly wrong to me, but then I am American, so I'm set in my ways.
Good old Bakugaijins.